Donald Trump was presented with a proposal, a bipartisan proposal to put through comprehensive immigration reform. It did address a number of things that Trump wanted. However, he was not happy with this proposal because it included restoring protections for certain immigrants in the country. These were immigrants who came in under temporary protected status, and Trump did away with that temporary protected status. These senators, again, a bipartisan effort, asked to restore the protections for immigrants from Haiti, El Salvador, and African countries. Now, here's how Donald Trump reacted to the proposal. Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here? And he was referring specifically to African countries and Haiti. So I have more details on what the proposal included, but Cenk, jump in.
All right, so a couple of things here. Just when you think he can't get worse, he always does. Never underestimate how bad a person Donald Trump is. Now, in an earlier meeting, he had said about people coming in from Haiti, they all have AIDS. That was reported by the New York Times. The administration did not disagree that that was the accurate tenor of the conversation in the White House, but they said, no, he didn't actually use the word AIDS. And then he talked about Africans and like, why don't we have them go back to their huts? And I'll have the exact quote for you, but I have it here as well. But then again, the administration said, well, there was a tenor of the conversation, but he didn't use the word huts. In this case, there's Democrats in the room. People are in the room, everybody knows. Right. You can't just deny it. You can't have your lackeys deny it. He said it in front of everybody. Why are we getting these people from these shithole countries? What kind of a thing is that to say if you're president of the United States? What do you think that does to our diplomacy? And besides which, you're such a bad person. And if you don't think that's a thing that someone saying is a bad thing, or someone's a bad person for saying that, then there's something wrong with you. Look, are there some countries that are poorer? Yes, okay. But for the president to refer to them that way, it's so deeply offensive. It's just preposterous. We have an absolute moron. Even if he believed that, come on guys, you think it's a smart thing to say that in public in front of Democrats and everyone else?
I don't think he ever really thinks about whether or not what he does or says is smart because he's already convinced that he's like a smart person. Anyway, but it's interesting because you ask, why would he do that? It's such a bad idea. It's going to get leaked. Of course it's going to get leaked. I think it would get leaked even if there were no Democrats in the room, as was the case with the statement that he made about people from Haiti having AIDS. The reality is what he said goes directly toward his base and what his base likes. And the meeting that originally happened in regard to comprehensive immigration reform, the meeting from earlier this week, made a lot of members of his base, especially some of the more public figures like Ann Coulter, enraged because he was willing to play ball with the Democrats. He seemed like he was a little more reasonable when it came to immigration reform. And they hated every minute of it. Ann Coulter turned on him like crazy. And so I was very curious to see how this was all gonna play out, because as he moves away from the Bannon type people and more toward the Mitch McConnell type politicians, there are members of his base that become less interested in him. And so I don't know if he's doing this as an effort to play to his base or if he's just forgetting. He just goes back and forth and flip-flops on everything.
No, look, I'm as positive as I can be. The answer is there's never any strategy with Donald Trump. It's just nothing but verbal diarrhea. And so whatever comes to his racist mind, he just blurts it out. He has no filter, he has no brakes. He doesn't realize that what he's saying is bad. So that's why we had done a poll about who's dumber, George W. Bush or Trump. Now it's not even close, because at least Bush knew he wasn't that bright. Trump has no idea that what he's about to say is a terrible thing to say. So look, to give you more context on that, in this meeting, he then followed it up by saying, why don't we get people from good countries like Norway? Now wait a minute. If you're talking about politics, Norway is more liberal than any of those countries, way more liberal. Norway is so liberal, they've got a mass killer in jail who's complaining that his human rights are being violated because he doesn't have the latest place station, okay? And they're taking him seriously. They are massively liberal in Norway. It's not about politics.
They're white though.
Gee, I wonder what it's about when he says Norway good, African countries in Haiti bad, or shitholes.
Exactly. So let me give you some more details. Among the senators in the room were Senator Dick Durbin, and here's what he had to say. The president invited us to, at his little get-together in the cabinet room, to come up with proposals, and we did. It's a bipartisan proposal, which we've worked on for 4 months in the Senate, and I don't know what happens next. So let's get to the details of what the proposal included. It gave a lot of concessions to Trump that I completely disagree with.
Yeah, I hate it.
I hate it as well, but not for the reasons that Trump hates it. Now, the proposal presented by the bipartisan Gang of Six was a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who came to the United States as children, and it went beyond just those who enrolled in DACA when it ended, okay?
So that's the good part.
That's the good part, in favor of that. Now, here are the parts, or this includes some of the parts that I dislike. In addition, they proposed a down payment of $1.6 billion requested by the administration this year on border security. Okay, what happened to Mexico paying for the wall? Why is my taxpayer money paying for a wall that he campaigned on and said that Mexico was gonna pay for it? I mean, it's interesting. They can't afford affordable housing programs. They can't afford funding the entitlement programs, but they can afford $1.6 billion toward this nonsense wall. All right, let me give you more. Limits to the ability of recipients to sponsor family members and an end to the diversity lottery and reallocation of those visas in part to cover people who were under temporary protected status.
So, hey, you're allowed to stay, but none of your family. No, we're gonna break the families apart anyway. So look, I think that there's 1,000 things wrong with all of this. They moved the Overton window so far to the right. Now we're having a debate among which, in my opinion, incredibly right-wing proposal we're going to adopt. But in the midst of all that, Trump still says, and this is how they move the window, this is how they move the debate, not good enough. Democrats always say, okay, can we please have some scraps? And Republicans always say, no, not good enough. I want to be more loathsome, more hateful, and this proposed bipartisan legislation is not hateful enough. I don't want people from shithole countries. And Anna, is his parts of his base going to be happy about that? Oh yeah, I mean, look, the alt-right's going to be ecstatic. Ann Coulter can't stop smiling today, I'm sure, because she's as racist as Donald Trump is. Referring to the browning of America and how that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and she moved to Los Angeles, by the way, which I don't understand. If you don't like the browning of America, get the fuck out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, she's a liar anyway. It's all an act. She's a performance artist and a loathsome, fascist, racist one at that. So anyway, but a lot of the guys who are like, yeah, finally somebody calling it like it is. Yeah, I hate those black countries, right? I got it. Yes, some of those guys will be very happy. But again, there's got to be moms in Kansas going, don't call them shithole countries. That's terrible. You know,
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, we can only speculate. But I do want to add one quick correction before we move on from this story. We mentioned how Trump is not necessarily in favor of immigration from countries that don't have a white demographic. That's not necessarily true, because one thing that never gets covered in the media, and it drives me absolutely crazy, is that the Trump administration actually raised the cap for H-2B visas. These are low-skilled foreign workers who come into the country and do the jobs that Americans might not want to do, right? He raised that cap from 66,000 to 81,000 in mid-2017, okay? And then immediately after it was approved, Trump's businesses applied for 76 foreign workers. So if it benefits Trump and his bottom line, then he's in favor of it. Doesn't matter what the race is, doesn't matter what the political ideology is. It's all about making money and using his position to benefit his own businesses, which is why the whole conflict of interest issue was a big problem from the very beginning, but everyone just dropped it. Not a big deal, who cares?
So, but look, let me double down on the race issue though, because you're right, Anna, when it comes to the workers that he could pay less, he wants them for his properties. But it's not like he thinks, oh, they're good people and I would like them in the country. He thinks, oh, they're low paying jobs. Of course, you give them the brown people. So when asked about Nigeria in the earlier meeting that New York Times reported on, he said, no, I don't want them in the country because if they come here, they'll never go, quote, they'll never go back to their huts in Africa.
I can't with this guy.
This guy is the most deeply racist guy that we've had out in the open, with the exception of actual grand wizards of the KKK and neo-Nazis, etc. And he's the president, saying things like huts in Africa, shithole countries, everybody from Haiti has AIDS, and why can't we get good people from Norway? If you can't see that he's racist, then there's an excellent chance that you're racist. You just watched a video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.